evening, everybody. Welcome to Shop Talk, hosted by the Triangle Area SQL Server Users Group. In case this is your first time at Shop Talk, welcome. I'm going to guess this is probably not your first time at Shop Talk. Welcome back. I figure right after Past Summit, right before Thanksgiving, this is just when the most hardcore of attendees will pop in here. But because there was a lot of stuff that happened over the past week or so, it was probably worth having a whole session. Plus, we get a special guest star, Tracy Baggiano. How you doing, Tracy?
All right, ignore the background noise. It's the cat.
We get a special guest star of Tracy's cat. We get a not special, not guest star of Mike Christensen. How you doing, Mike?
Well, thank you. Good evening.
And I believe that makes Mala. What does that make you, Mala? Special, not guest star?
Ordinary. You and I are ordinary, Kevin, because we are. These
and
two
the
are
ordinary with a little bit of extra. Mala Mahadevan. How you doing, Mala?
Good evening, everyone.
All right. So many things happened in the last bit of time. Welcome in, Solomon. Speaking of hardcore people, we got Solomon. Also, because we used up the entire chat space, I actually did have to move over chat to like right there, as opposed to down here where it would take over Mike's face. So Mike's face is it's up above you, Mike. There you go. Yeah, there it is. So now Mike can see chat. Let's cover a couple of things. First thing I want to talk about. SQL Server 2022 did go GA. They announced it on Wednesday at Past Summit. And despite not having any special information, I mean, it was kind of obvious. Look, it's going to happen sometime in 2022, given the name. And generally gets released at big events. You had two big events, Ignite and Summit. Probably going to be one of those two. It didn't take Wile E. Coyote to sort that one out. But we did get it. Came out with Summit, and glad to see that. So Tracy, you haven't been on in a little while. Anything you're looking forward to in 2022, or you saw and said, yeah, I like this?
Oh my gosh, all kinds of stuff.
I mean, we're going to start with Date Trunk, am I right?
No, I wasn't going with the T-SQL stuff because I don't do developer stuff. But I will get there because I'm going to end up having to do that stuff eventually with my job. But,
Date Trunk is good, by the way.
Okay, it probably is. But yeah, it is. But I stick with the query source stuff because, well, I wrote a book on it. But no, that's not why. But I need it on my read-only secondaries. Mm. And yes, I need it there. So that's going to be awesome, especially, that's just going to be awesome. And I like all the stuff they did with MIs, even though MIs are expensive. But, having my DR in MIs and it doesn't have to be licensed, possibility of doing that. And the fact that I could put it out there and decide I don't want it there anymore and back it up and put it back down on prem. Nice. Yep. Or if I have it out there now, I could take it back.
Right. That was one of the issues with the SQL Managed Instance story until 2022 was what happens if I don't like it out there? What happens if the project doesn't work? How do I come back to on-premises? Because that's a story that Microsoft doesn't like to tell, but it does happen it happens in real life that you do sometimes end up saying, well, for reasons A, B, and C, it is better for us to host this thing on premises. And how do I get things back out? How do I exfiltrate from Azure?
And I know this is something that we're never going to care about ever again because it's just going to work from now on. But incident file initialization is on for your log files now. You don't need it.
That's good.
It's just there. You don't have to You don't have to zero initialize your log files anymore.
That's very nice.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Yes.
So no more, worrying about the thing growing and that little bit of time it might affect performance. Gosh, what else? The TempDB stuff they've done. Supposedly we don't need multiple TempDB files, even though we sort of do for just so we can split up I/O, but not for page contention though. But just so we can spread out the I/O on the disk. But we eliminate page contention now. It's supposedly it's magically gone. What else?
I'd
could
like to
probably
see
name a
that.
whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I'd love to see that in action. I think that's going to be one of those. I'll believe it when I do see it.
True.
Just because I haven't seen the demos for that. To be fair.
I have seen the demos. It was neat.
Okay.
I did see it. It was so cool. I watched it. It was like they had the old way and then the new way and the little stats.
Nice.
And then it was one file.
Yeah, because previously, you would get GAM contention, SGAM contention. I suppose that's a thing of the past.
Yeah, it's supposedly gone.
Now,
So how is it gone? What is the basis of it being gone?
Magic.
is this
Bob Moore
related
did
to?
magic.
So is this related to what they
Just
were doing with
kidding.
memory optimized TempDB metadata?
I think it's the memory optimized stuff. Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
They've got certain things you got to turn on in order for it to do its magic and stuff. Bob's got there's a demo on the GitHub. The GitHub repository has like all their workshop stuff they did for the workshop for the pre-con. All that stuff's out on GitHub, so everybody go get it and play with all the 2022 stuff because it's all out there for free. So you might as well go play with the demos and do all the cool stuff and find out all the cool stuff that we're talking about and do it yourself.
I got my new computer. I'll try it out.
I shall go find the link while Kevin's finding the link.
Yeah, I see his 2022 book repo, but
The workshop's out there too. I will find it. Don't worry.
So Grant's
Excellent.
book is out there for like $10. I want to buy it.
Me too. I got that email.
They wanted us to tell people to go get it, the workshop. So here it is. That I don't know if there's a shorter URL for it, but this is the one that copy paste needs to work. But
all right.
they
So
wanted-
while Tracy's getting that link in there, there is a
I
question
think I put
from.
anything in chat. There
Uh-oh.
it goes. There it goes.
All
He
right.
just wanted me to struggle. But yeah, the whole workshop that they did at Past Summit is supposed to be in this link with all the demos and everything. And they wanted people to have it, so after Summit. So go have fun.
Excellent.
Thank you,
And-
Tracy. I really appreciate it.
And I'll make sure that that is part of the show notes for this week's episode. So there is a question from Death Killer, by the way, welcome in. How much does it cost to host a data server? And what are the resources you would need to host one? In other words, a shared server that multiple people would have as opposed to some running on your own laptop.
It depends.
Now that Tracy's in consulting.
You can host a Raspberry Pi if you want.
Azure, right? On Azure?
Yeah,
Say
I
again,
think
Mala?
I got one spun up for like $70 a month with a 16 gigs of memory and 2 cores. And really cheap
Yeah.
disk. But I power it down and it doesn't cost me $70 a month. Because I only power it up when I want to use it.
Right. And frankly, this, depending on the how, the what, the why, and the who, but not the where. Forget about the where. That's not even worth that. But depending on those questions, cloud services are kind of well thought out for this sort of thing, where I just need a server that's hosted someplace. You can definitely find servers for different needs. If you're talking, say, I want to host a database server, a SQL Server or Postgres or MySQL or whatever, you could definitely host that yourself in Azure, AWS, and Google Cloud, or wherever you want to go. There are third-party vendors who have their own sets of basically data centers and services Like the one that I use is called OpalStack, and they were built off of a British company that was around for a while until GoDaddy bought them, and therefore everybody stopped using them because GoDaddy is garbage when it comes to being a hosting service.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunate, because I loved that company that I was with beforehand. I was with them for like a decade, and then GoDaddy bought them. It's like, all right, I'm going to ride this until GoDaddy actually takes over. Once they took over, I'm going somewhere else. And OpalStack was some former employees who had similar thoughts and said, all right, fine, we'll just spin up our own version of this service. And that's like $8 a month, and you can host different servers there. So depending on what you would need it for, you may be talking about a few dollars a month, $10, $20, $30 a month. If you're hosting a machine in Azure, then you may be talking like $70 a month. I host as well a machine in Azure just because I have some Azure credits that is for an out of the park league for a friend of mine. And that may cost like $10 a month because it's some micro tier instance that is incredibly cheap. But generally not that much. I mean, I would say at this point, unless you have a specific need to, you don't typically need to have the hardware yourself. And it's usually cheaper not to have the hardware yourself. You could still do it, of course. You could still have hardware that you run out of your house. You can have free services that essentially act as a reverse proxy, where you have a port open that is exposed on your network and it routes into the database that you have. There may be reasons to do that. There are reasons to do that. Just unless you know what you're doing, it's not a great idea.
I was listening to Software Engineering Radio a week or two. It's an older episode, maybe a few months ago, but it was on self-hosting and it was excellent. It was absolute. I learned so much because obviously it's a scary topic, but you can do DigitalOcean and Linode and other services. But like if you do it yourself, this person wrote a book on it. So I'll put that in the chat in a moment. Let me just go on mute.
Perfect. And then NanoDBA said, I hope that some of the new hot awesomeness applies to Standard Edition as well. Generally speaking, if it's anything in the development platform, the development surface area, it will be in Standard Edition. So date trunk, you got that in Standard Edition. Even a lot of the administrative features, some of the stuff Tracy's talking about with memory optimized tempdb, I think that's Standard Edition. I would have to double check and make sure, but there are some things, essentially if it comes down to high availability or certain types of functionality that is more enterprisey, the more enterprisey it is, the more likely it is to be Enterprise Edition only. And that's, at this point, you're talking things like partitioning, you're talking multiple read availability groups. You're talking some of that type of functionality versus in-memory OLTP. And yeah, there's still I believe there's still the 128 gigabyte limit on Standard Edition for the buffer pool. But remember that that's just the buffer pool. So you can also have a certain amount for memory optimized tables, for column store, for the query plans, for various other bits and bobs that go outside your 128 gigs. So you could legitimately be using up like 190 or 200 gigs of RAM on a Standard Edition SQL Server instance. Just 128 is your buffer pool. So that is, I think there's a lot of cool stuff that's coming in 2022, or that's out in 2022. We've talked about a bit of it on the development side. We talked about some of the nice features for legacy SQL development. Tracy hit on some of the cool administrative stuff. There's a good amount. I think this is going to be one of the biggest releases over the past decade. This probably is the biggest release since 2012, at least in terms of things that I've seen that, all right, I see this being useful for 80% of developers and DBAs. And that said, I love being on the weird side of, here's ML services. Yes, please. Here's Polybase. Yeah, of course. Here's whatever other thing. Yeah, I may be the only person who enjoys it, but I like being that person. I think a lot of what's in 2022 is intended to hit more practical use cases than some of the data virtualization work or the machine learning work that prior editions have hit on. But yeah, some good stuff out of this. Speaking of good stuff, there's right now, an enormous sale on books through Apress. In case you're not aware of it, first off, here's a really good book from a really cool person. My book is finally officially available. Finding Ghosts in Your Data, Anomaly Detection Techniques with Examples in Python.
Congrats.
It is out. I have my author copies that are in the mail right now. Actually should be delivered during the show. So I'll get my physical copies. You can buy a copy of this book. Ebook, $7. Softcover paperback, $10. Now, let's say maybe you don't care about anomaly detection with examples in Python. Although I do talk about Gestalt psychology. So if you're into Gestalt psychology, definitely buy the book for chapter 2.
I'm buying it, Kevin. I'm buying it for Gestalt, not for Python. I don't know Python. I don't know the tech part that you're speaking of, but I will buy it for Gestalt.
I'll pay 11. Where do I give the extra $1?
But let's say for example, maybe something that's a little bit more useful. First off, how dare you? Second off, here's Grant Fritchie's book, also just released, SQL Server 2022 Query Performance Tuning, also $10. By the way, if you just want to get best value per dollar, or in terms of pages, Grant's book's 700 pages, my book's 350. So you get twice as much value out of his book in terms of page count.
Well, it's not mutually exclusive.
No. It's value per word.
Right. So I'm definitely buying both.
Each word is more portent than yours.
Well, I mean, I'm more likely to drop obscure multisyllabic words, so I don't know. Maybe that's where I make up for it. That he's got the volume, but I get the hard hitters.
I heard a new one the other day that I had never heard in my life, and I didn't think it was real. It's called perseverate. Repeating thought or utterance after the stimulus that completed has ceased. Perseverate. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but I had never heard that before.
There we go. That's your word of the day with Mike. So basically anything Apress related right now, order today. I noticed it this weekend. It's still going on today. I'm not sure how long it's going on, but you want softcover books, they're $10 a piece. Plus tax. I mean, you're probably gonna have to pay tax, but nonetheless, there's a lot, and Apress has put out quite a few SQL Server related books this year. A lot of .NET related. If you're into Python, there's quite a bit there. Springer itself, not necessarily 80% off on terms of books, but Springer hits a lot of textbooks, a lot of compendiums, heavy academic research work, and they're 55 to 90% off. So this is a really good time if you want to dunk $100 into buying a whole bunch of books that you might never read. It's a good opportunity to do it. So I do recommend getting out, grabbing those books while you still have a chance. I bought a good 10 books today. So I can say that there are at least 10 books worth buying. 11 if you include mine, but I didn't buy my own book. So did want to mention that.
You're parsimonious.
I am. Also, chintzy. Chintzy is a great way to describe me. I mean, would I buy my own book? I don't know.
You get author copies, Kevin. Why would you need to buy?
I mean, that's true. If I didn't get an author copy, would I buy my own book? I don't know. Maybe.
You could sign your own one that you bought and say, "Great job, Kevin."
I mean, I could. So, yeah, that's been I guess I'll take a couple more moments on it, but it's been a culmination of a whole lot of work, about a year's worth of work. Doing the math on it was like 300 hours of work, which if you look at how much money I make on the book, basically says I made less than minimum wage on this book. So that's good.
That's totally believable.
Yeah.
Believable. Yeah.
You don't, pro tip to anybody, you don't make money in the tech industry writing books. Not in the last 20 years.
No.
25 years ago, you could make a pretty good living on it. Today, nah.
You just make a social media company.
I mean, I could create a cryptocurrency scam and run $10 billion through it and then somehow have all the money disappear and say, well, how was I supposed to know what would happen? We valued our cryptocurrency at $7.6 billion. Not that I'm saying anything that actually happened or anything. No idea there.
Just put blockchain in front of whatever you do and you're good.
That's I'm gonna pointedly avoid that.
I'm sorry, I'm poking the bear. I'm sorry.
That the bear's busy getting a picnic basket. And instead, let's talk about Past Summit and Live 360. So I know Mala, you were at Past Summit. Tracy, were you at Past Summit?
Yeah, she was there too.
Yes. I was
There we
live
go.
and in person there while I was at home there.
That's true. So we
two
had
different
one
viewpoints.
online person, one in-person person, and then one not there person. And then there was me. I was in Orlando. So, all right, let's start with you, Tracy. Thoughts on Past Summit? It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a bit. It was a little bit smaller, but I think it went well. I mean, it was fun. They said that they had 40% new people, which I thought was a big number for new people. But technically, it's a new conference. Technically speaking, with different company, same name.
Kind of, sort of, yeah.
Kind of, sort of, yeah. But I mean, I had fun. I mean, I learned a lot of stuff when I attended sessions and not the hallway track. Yeah, I mean, I think it went well. It's to me, it seemed like the same thing as before, as far as the same type of content, same people, same. We have community zone, the safe zone, as I call it. And
Did you see friend of the channel, Tom Norman?
Yes, I did see Tom.
Good. So we have proof of existence of Tom. So that's
Tom
that's good to hear.
exists. He does exist. Yes, I even met his coworker.
Tom, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Finish.
Yes, I met his coworker too. So, he exists, and he's looking forward to retirement in a couple of years, I think.
I can believe it. Yeah.
Stated. So
Already had that retirement job. Got the retirement house.
I have to say, I like how Summit did the Team Hugo thing at the end of the keynote, and Microsoft did that on stage with Hugo's cancer and stuff. So that I think that was a good thing for them to do as far as the community went.
Yeah, for sure.
So I really appreciate that nod to the community as far as the conference went.
So as far as the rest of Summit, did it feel like a classic Summit or different?
To me, as a virtual person, it felt like a classic Summit without the baggage, and that's what I was talking to Grant this morning. I was telling him exactly that the last 2 years of PASS had so much of politics and so much of baggage every year. It was getting stressful, and I didn't know. I was not sure what to expect here, and I thought they did a fantastic job. It was a community event. It was about learning and community. They kept that focus way smaller than the usual summit is, way smaller. But I don't think that was their fault. It's just the times we live in. They kept the focus, and they did a good job.
I was gonna say yes, but smaller.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
I mean everything was the same except smaller.
Yeah.
It's because and it is because of COVID. But some people aren't traveling. I mean, I took Flat Clee with me. He's not here right now, but we had a head of Clee made, and because he couldn't go because of COVID, so we took him around, took pictures of people with him, and there wasn't as many exhibitors as normal, and they didn't have the big Microsoft clinic like normal either.
Oh, really?
No, there was no Microsoft clinic. So they just had the Microsoft booth.
Okay. So there was a question in chat here. Was the Redgate acquisition of past detrimental to vendor participation? And I guess it's going to be an opinion question. But
so I don't think detrimental is the right word. I would think it might be viewed by some vendors as a conflict of interest.
Well, I heard one vendor didn't participate because of it, but you're going to have vendors that are direct compete that aren't going to do it. But for the most part, I don't think that held anything back.
Yes.
Because to me, it wasn't noticeable that there were a bunch of vendors. The only one I noticed that was missing was just one that's usually at conferences, and it's because I like their swag. But I just like their little things.
Little ducks?
Yeah, the little ducks.
Gotcha.
But they're direct compete, so that's to be expected.
That conflict of interest. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, they're head on compete, and the other company, I didn't even notice they weren't there. That was direct compete, and so I just now thought about it. But that's because I don't got their swag. But I other companies that were there, and they had I think they had enough vendor presence. I mean, they had all the big vendors, Microsoft, AWS, and all the other little vendors around, so it wasn't that bad. So I don't think that was an issue.
Mike had to drop off. Obviously, he was kidnapped by ninjas.
Ninjas.
He was definitely. Ninjas. He was trying to tell us a story with those curtains.
Be specific. It was SQL ninjas.
I think they had significant challenges with significant tech challenges with being a blended event, which was expected, but in that regard it was worse than expected because I was working with the team back end, and especially the first 2 days with the pre-cons were just not fun at all. Lots of stuff went wrong with the hardware, the software, the audio and video at the convention center, and all kinds of stuff.
Trust me, I was having fun with that too.
Yeah, so they managed it, but it was really hard, and they needed at least twice the amount of staff to get it straight. I hope next time they'll pay attention to that. So that was a really, and blended events are hard. I mean, we don't have the technology to make it smooth yet. So some of them were expected, some of them were worse than expected. But I had fun. I mean, even as a virtual person, I really had fun. I attended Itzig Benkan's pre-con, and Itzig took a different style this time. I attend his pre-cons every year almost for the past 3-4 years. This year he took to explaining to us what is SQL's implementation of relational theory, which was not something we expected totally, but he took a completely different way of teaching us stuff, and he taught us a lot of stuff that we didn't know. More theory based though than anything in practice. So there were no demo scripts or anything like that. It was just he walked us through the theory, and towards the end he demoed certain things, but mostly it was like 90% was a theory class with Brent Ozar moderating, which was interesting and fun. So the regular sessions, I attended a few. I did one, Eric Darling's thing on query performance tuning, which was like really, really good. And then I attended a couple of sessions by new speakers. There was one gentleman who did some kind of automation around query store, because we use a lot of query store at work. I attended his class, and it was like a first time speaker. He did a really good job. Some neat scripts to clean out what happens when query store goes into read only mode, and how do you get it out without damaging your data. He's written his own scripts for that, like pretty smart scripts. I thought we were the only ones in that area, but apparently there are other people, and it was a really, really good class. Some basics of query store, but also, some other stuff. There was the Women in Tech panel, which myself and my colleague Leslie put together. That went like superbly well, really well, a great discussion. So overall, a few other classes too. I forget details of. Kimberly and Paul did the Mythbusters session on the last day, which was really fun. A lot of humor, a lot of fun. And then what else? What other sessions did I attend? Um, yeah, those are the ones that I recall off the top of my mind. And ITSIC also did one on deterministic functions, which was also like really good. And then a beginner session by what's the Swedish guy, Kevin? I forget his name. The one we were talking about on Google Chat at work. That was also very, very good. Very, very good. So overall, it was a great summit. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot. There were lots of people who came to hang out virtually, and I didn't feel like I was sitting by myself here alone. It was fun. It was worth it.
Good. I mean, that sounds like a way above average experience when it comes to a virtual conference.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Erland Somskov, his
Oh, okay.
beginner session. Sorry. So Erland's beginner session was excellent. I always attend his classes, even though they are level 100, because I always learn something, and this was no exception. Really, really good speakers, top-notch speakers, and even the newbie speakers were really good. Tech challenges, and then a lot of sessions were not streamed, so some people were like really, really upset. Some of the virtual attendees. I was expecting it because their streaming licenses were limited, but apparently they did that very well, and people came in thinking every session listed there would be streamed, and it wasn't. There were only 60 to 70% of sessions that were streamed, and then people were like really upset about it. They may be still handling that part with it. Now everything is recorded, but it wasn't streamed.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think they did a good job, and they say they're going to have the next summit at Seattle again next year, so that should be interesting.
Right. See if there's more pickup in terms of attendees and vendors and everything. My summit experience was pretty short. I basically was on for a Q&A session on Wednesday at lunch because I was on the East Coast the whole time. So had a few people and essentially spent the entire session like, hey, everybody, you probably haven't watched my video yet, but go watch the video because this is an open Q&A about the video that you haven't watched. There were a couple of people who did actually watch the video. So I did a pre-recorded summit session, part of a data learning pathway. And if you did get access to summit recordings, definitely check that out. I think it is worth their watch. It's a good 45, 50 minutes long and is rather unique. It's an introduction to what data engineering is all about and part of a learning pathway on becoming a data engineer in Azure. Done in a style that I'm probably never doing again just because it took so many dozens of hours to complete this 1 hour video. So it was, I guess I'll spoil it since it's already out. Basically, it was done as a mashup of The Office and Kitchen Nightmares and was intended to be sort of a television show that would go in a real customer scenario where the customer is completely normal in a messed up way. I think it turned out decently considering that my budget is zero and my editing skills are just about that. But I think it was fun. Attendees may have thought it was fun. Who knows? I guess I'll find out later on if I get an awful grade that there were a bunch of curmudgeons who just wanted me to stand in front of a PowerPoint slide and talk for an hour. But I did very little of that. Now, Tracy, you were in person, and you talked a bit
Yes.
about your experiences at Summit. Anything you wanted to add on as fun, additional things?
Not really. I mean, it was just like normal. I mean, to me, it was just like a normal summit. I mean, you had the hallway track where you run into people you knew. I had people walking up to me that knew me that I didn't know them because they'd seen sessions. Evidently, you know, I have this mental health talk that's very popular. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But I had at least 20 people come up to me about that session.
Wow.
Yes, evidently that has caught on fire out in the community, more fire than I had. I mean, I already knew it was on fire a little bit, but not that much. But I had a lot of people, speakers, regular attendees, stop me and thank me for the talk. Some shared their personal stories with me. Yeah, that happened to me a lot. It started in Portland when I went to SQL Saturday, but it continued all the way through Summit. I even had a speaker at the very end of Friday going, "You need to come up with another talk on mental health." I'm like, "I do." Your story's so good. I know you got another story you can tell. I was like, yeah, I've only got like 40 years experience with this, or 30. Like, shouldn't I talk about SQL Server or something? But yeah, I tweeted about one guy that was in Eric's pre-con with me he stopped me in the hallway and was like, I one of the best things you said in one of your talks that I did was I quit a job. I was like, uh-oh. But it's because he took a job that wasn't a fit for himself. And so he didn't dredge and stick it out. And I know Molly commented on this on one of my platforms I posted this on. But if a job doesn't fit, don't torture yourself and stay at it forever. I mean, find something that fits and makes you happy. And
I have walked out of jobs I don't like 3 times.
yeah, I mean,
once when I was on a work visa too, when I didn't, it was legal, I could be deported.
I mean, it's just,
yeah,
it's not worth your mental health.
No.
So your current self and your future self will thank you later if you explore other job opportunities and save your mental health now.
Yes.
So, I mean, I highly encourage you. Sometimes the job interview process doesn't reveal everything that you need to know about a job.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Do try to have a new job before you quit yours, ideally.
Yeah, well, get another job first, but yes. But, and you've got people in the community that will help you write your resumes and help you get job interviews. So just reach out to people. I happen to be one of those people. I'll help you out with stuff like that. I may have did that for someone recently.
You know what?
When I should have been doing other stuff, I rewrote the resume.
I think we have a
So
topic.
that's the biggest advantage of being in community. Is people help you find work, and to me, that's been a big gain, significant gain.
But yeah, evidently I gotta come up with a new mental health talk according to a speaker. Much more famous speaker than me. So pressure's on.
Well, there you go. But since you talked about resumes, that actually would be a really good shop talk topic for the future. So that's on the shop talk backlog, the official backlog of shop talk.
We have a backlog now.
I mean, we've had a backlog. It's just been empty most of the time.
Yeah, I know. That's why we have one now. It has something on it.
half the time we barely have a front log.
If you are interested, a person, Nano DBA wants to know more summit takeaways. As a virtual attendee, I met with 5 new people online, which is a record for me. I wasn't even there in person, but they had a nice, they had a networking area where people used to come and hang out. Other virtual speakers and sometimes other people who are in person too. So this is the first time I made some effort. And it was actually easier for me as an introvert talking to somebody online. It's less of an effort than going and shaking the person's hand in person. So it was nice. It was easy. I was able to add a few people to my new people. I thought that was pretty cool. And
yeah, definitely nice. Meanwhile, I was in Orlando for Live 360. The short version of that, I mean, it was unfortunate that both events were at the same time. Would have liked to have been in Seattle for Summit, but I had in-person sessions for Live 360, so had to be there. And it was a good conference. It felt like it was just about the same size as it was in 2019. I was there for the 2021 edition, and that one was a lot smaller. This year felt back to where I think it was 2019, my first time. It's a fairly big conference. It's cross-platform, so there's development, database, machine learning, infrastructure, and Microsoft 365. So it's kind of 5 conferences smashed together. And data platform is a relatively small portion of the whole show. But well attended. I always enjoy being there, and getting that opportunity to present. Had a couple of talks. Actually, did not have a chance to really see any other talks just because of how much other stuff was going on at the time. But I wanted to be in a couple. The unfortunate thing is those are all live in person. If you're not there, you don't get it. Sessions. So none of it's recorded. None of it was live streamed. It was all be there or don't be there. Classic conference. And with that said, I think that's generally a solid approach when it comes to presenting at a larger conference. That unless you're willing to put in the infrastructure and the money for a live streaming alternative, don't go halfway. Either go full bore and accept the consequences of that, or don't do it at all and just be in person. And they went don't do it at all and be in person, and I think it was a smart idea, because you don't want to have the sessions where nobody can hear the speaker, but the speaker doesn't know because the people who are online didn't say anything. And they did do a hybrid conference in last year, and every session I was in, it just kind of felt like, are there any comments from the audience, from the remote audience? No comments. Where most of the time, I didn't even know, was there a remote audience?
With the summit, we had a moderator. Every remote session had a moderator. So my Q&A went like really, really well. I had Chris Yates doing the moderation for me. There were lots of questions. People were really engaged and interested. So it worked well. And all the sessions I moderated well like that too. Like lots of audience participation. I moderated like 4 sessions, and all of them were like really, really good.
Good.
My Q&A went really well too. Jess and Chrissy and Rob all came and moderated mine with me. So and everybody, some people had actually watched my session, some hadn't. So, and it just managed to work out.
Right. Yeah, no, that's nice. I had one of the earliest live Q&A sessions. It was Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So basically the videos dropped on Tuesday, but that was one of the first sessions of the day, essentially, of the first presentation day. So I expected not many people would have seen it. That might have been right after the announcements of SQL Server as well, because I think the keynote was at 8 o'clock.
Well, if you went right after the keynote, you might not have had as many people because the keynote ran late.
Yeah, that could be.
It did.
Now, I was also entirely virtual there, so who knows?
A lot of the in-person people had darted out to in-person speakers had darted out and then didn't have as many attendees because the keynote ran over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
That's fair. And keynotes, those historically have run over, from my recollection. So yeah, sounds like a couple of good conferences. Closing up one last thread, NanoDBA mentions talking to a performance monitoring vendor who is doing an external happy hour event instead of having a presence at the event. Didn't sound like the vendor had much choice in the matter. And yeah, I could see cases where, like Tracy mentioned, direct competitors to Redgate wouldn't have been interested in financing Redgate. I wonder if they're going to release out pass to the community again similar to what's happened with SQL Saturday, where that's been reverted back to Steve Jones. It will be interesting to see.
So they have a new CEO at Redgate, not the guy who bought this from Pass. It's very possible that what Kevin's saying might happen, although we have no clue if there are talks going on about that or any such thing yet. Running a summit is not a joke. It's not something that the volunteers can pull off like SQL Saturday or anything like that. It has to be
For sure.
serious effort. So don't know. It might happen. It might not happen. And like I said, it also depends on what gains they think they got as a business. It's a business. It's not Pass, and we should not forget that. So they may be gauging the amount of gains they got in that regard and making a decision based on that.
Yeah. So I guess we'll see what happens coming up next year. But given that they've already said probably going to be one in Seattle, that seems like a good sign. 2 more topics for tonight. Topic number 1. I'm actually going to take these in reverse order of what I had here. Looking forward to attending more SQL Saturdays whenever I can. Yeah, SQL Saturday Austin just opened up their call for speakers. So we're starting to see some of the events for 2023 coming out. I know Richmond, Jamie Wick has been talking about possibly doing one in March or April. And so there's some where we're starting to see the prep work coming into play. And 2 topics. Topic the first, TriPass board voting technically has started, but in classic fashion, I haven't announced anything. I will send out a TriPass news and notes. Basically, it'll be a respond to this message with a yes or no on president, this guy, vice president of marketing, Rick Pack, treasurer, Mala, and yes to the 3 or no to the 3. And if no votes outweigh yes votes, then we'll have our own crisis of confidence and sort things out. But I will send that out. Voting will be going on for a couple of weeks. Knowing that this is Thanksgiving week, I wanted to make sure that we had at least some time for people to quickly respond with a yes or a no, because it'll just be respond to this email, yes or no. Then we do the heavy lifting afterwards. The other thing, I am closing the survey, the TriPass semi-annual / biennial survey. We still have not yet decided if it's a semi-annual or a biennial survey, because technically they mean the same thing or they mean different things. That's the way of the world. But quick review of questions and answers. I'll send out something a little bit more detailed for TriPass news and notes. Plan to write that up tonight. As far as returning to hybrid sessions, so one of the things that I did want to point out is there is no option here for in-person only. It'll either be hybrid or online only. And the large majority of people said hybrid, in-person simulcasting to Twitch. It is going to be a little challenging finding venues, but knowing that 2/3 of people want at least one of the 3 meetings to be hybrid, we'll do what we can. So I will reach back out to Tech Systems, has historically hosted us for the main meeting. I'll reach out to them. I've still got some contacts, assuming that they're still with Tech Systems. Assuming that they are, reach out to them, see what shakes out there, see if we're able to use their venue for our main meetings again. And for the other ones, we'll have to sort it out. So Solomon asks, how long can we stretch out the election process if I claim fraud by the machines? So this one, it's all hand counted. We're doing it right, Solomon. You get a purple thumb. We're hand counting them. You don't get to vote twice. I know all your email addresses. Actually, I probably don't. Don't vote more than once, people. So next question was around, hey, do you have an employer who has a location that could host TriPass? And the answer was no, across the board. So that is kind of the challenge to going hybrid. That, yeah, I would, I'd be happy with some of our meetings going back to hybrid. I mean, I like being able to stand around at home all day. But we just have to sort out venues. Tech systems, hopefully, is going to be accommodating. And if they are, we have one of the three. We'll talk to whoever we can to try to sort out other in-person meetings. But yeah, I don't want to push too hard on a couple of places that I've used in the past. But I'll see what I can do. As far as a SQL Saturday Raleigh, since NanoDBA mentioned this, a lot of people, 89% of the people said, yes, let's have a SQL Saturday Raleigh. In person only. We would not be doing that hybrid, so it'd be in person only. So I haven't talked about this with the rest of the board. We've got two of the board right here. We may be doing a SQL Saturday Raleigh. We'll have to talk about it as a board. But there's a fair amount of interest in here, so that's a good sign to hear. I got a couple of ideas from people about topics for TriPass meetings in the upcoming year, so I'll bring that back to Tracy, and we'll see if we can find anybody to cover a couple of these topics specially. But in case you are interested, the call for speakers is open right now for TriPass for meetings next year. We would love to have in-person speakers. If you can only do online only, that's also okay. Just let us know. Is there an option in there to mark in-person or online only, Tracy?
Yeah,
The talk to
Yeah.
deliver the talk. You can mark all three.
Okay.
You can do in person, virtual, or either.
Fair enough. So, if you
I
want
set
to
that up.
excellent. I will say, if you mark that you can be in person, you're more likely to get selected. We'll put it that way.
More than likely.
More likely. What topics would you like to see less of for TriPass meetings the upcoming year? I'm actually pleased that nobody had anything. Everybody's like, nope, bring it. Whatever
Bring
you
it
got.
all.
Yeah, so I think that is a good testament to the variety of topics that we've brought in, and that it's a good crowd here. And even if there's a topic like, I don't care about this one today, I think it's because we have enough meetings over the course of a month that even if you only like 2 of the 3 topics, that's still 2 meetings a month. That's a good number. Solomon has a quick question, but Solomon, I know you well enough. I don't believe it's going to be quick. I'm gonna take a sip of water. And so, if you are interested, let me see if I can pop up Sessionize and get to our call for speakers. I'll put that into the chat as well.
You need to grab it?
I think I've got it here. Let me pull it up as I'm loading
checking.
this. All right, so I get call for speakers page. Here we go. So yeah, if you're interested in doing a session for TriPass next year, call for speakers is right there. So social security number is considered personally identifiable information, right? Is it safe to send such personally identifiable information over email, even if name and address is included? Is email transmission considered safe? And Tracy's got the answer. It's a vigorous head shake of no.
No. Evil.
You want to go further than that, Tracy, or just...
Well, I guess you can do encrypted email, but who knows if it actually be encrypted. But no, don't send it via email. It's not encrypted.
Yeah.
It's just
Generally
plain...
speaking, Tracy's absolutely right. If it's just a general email, not an encrypted email, then anybody who's between you and the email recipient could potentially get that information. You'll have different servers that have that info. Not wise, usually. within companies, they will have the option for encrypted messages where the email is actually through some third-party service, where it's a link, you open the link, and then it displays. Which is why, for example, your bank always sends a thing that says, hey, we have a new message for you. They don't ever send it to you in the email. You have to log into their system and into their message center, and then they'll show you the message for reasons like that. And even if you don't include name and address, I mean, I'd still say it's probably not wise. It's one of those things where social security number should not be used as an identifier, and yet everybody uses it as an identifier. So I was under the impression that sending social security number, name, and address is PII, agreed, and unsafe to send via email, even in an unencrypted, non-password protected PDF, not secure email. Yeah, that I concur. That's not safe. It's something that people like the follow-up here. So I was asked to send it in a PDF over regular email. That will happen sometimes. I mean, you'll get things like if I need a W-9 form. What you can do is yeah, W-9 form. I know what you're talking about now, Solomon. Okay, yep. So what you can do is, so in my case, I used my company ID number, the employer ID that I have for Galaxy Services, so that it wasn't my social security number. And that's public info that you can look up in a system. Yeah, generally not the best thing to send back. Here's a PDF of my details. But what you can do is encrypt that, like encrypt it in a zip file, and then in a separate mechanism. It could be a separate email, but generally should be a different mechanism. Here's the password for that encrypted file. And that's one way to get around it, or to host it in a secured service where there's appropriate authentication and authorization. Sending details is hard. Just wanted to make sure I wasn't crazy. No, you're not crazy, and a lot of people probably did it without even thinking, because we're asked to do this so often. And it's not just what you're talking about. There are also cases where, oh, the bank needs details. Okay, well, the real estate agent says, "Yeah, just send me this form," or we need this thing for immigration documents, and the visa providing service wants you to send forms. In a lot of cases, there's some, oh, just send it via email without necessarily thinking about what the consequences of that are. And I think in most cases, people are willing to accept the okay, let me encrypt this and we can communicate the password. But don't we have sessions in these conferences where we advise people not to do this? Following advice that we give is hard. But yeah, no, you're right, Solomon. It is not great. Not great, Bob. So that was pretty much all that I wanted to cover for today. Before we wrap up, any last thoughts, Tracy, Mala?
Nope. Go play with SQL 2022. It'll be fun.
Also, if you want to buy the recordings for the summit, I would consider them worth buying. There's lots of great sessions there. Consider it.
And buy Grant Pritchie's book.
Yeah. Yes, Kevin's book.
But buy it today when it's $10.
Book, and Bob Ward's book too.
That's true. Actually, yeah,
book.
Bob Ward's got a book. Matthew McGiffin's got a book on security.
Josephine's got a book on SQL audit too.
Was that?
I know everybody loves security. Come on, who wouldn't want a book on SQL audit? Why not?
That's fair. I mean, we did just have Josephine talking about SQL audit, but was that through A-Press or?
A-Press, yes.
Okay, well in that case,
I have an autographed copy. I know, so.
Tracy's got a book through A Press.
Oh yeah, yeah, I got a book. I forgot about that. Yeah. Free store. Just a little old, but yeah, it's still valid.
Still works. Basically, you can buy a whole bunch of books, $10 a pop, or $7 a pop if you just want ebooks.
If you want a Career Store book, I still have some. If you want one, send me your address, and I'll send you an autographed copy. Because, I still got 3 or 4 that I need to give away. Just saying.
Yeah.
Mala's got one. She wants one.
It comes in orange too, the autograph, because that's my favorite color. It's gotta be unique. Bob Ward, I've got the most unique Bob Ward autograph ever because it's in orange. I made him sign his 2019 book in orange.
All right. Well, on that note, I think we're gonna call it for Shop Talk, because we're after Halloween, so orange is passé. Now we're in what, yellowish brown? It's turkey time, folks. So we're going to wrap things up for tonight. Enjoy Thanksgiving if you're in the U.S. Enjoy Canadian Thanksgiving if you can remember what month it is, because it had already happened. But enjoy it next year, I guess. But we're going to get out of here. Remember, the next meeting is our main meeting in December. We don't have an advanced DBA session in December, and we won't have our data science in December. So we're kind of just going to wrap it up. We'll probably have Shop Talk in a couple weeks. We'll find out. But until we see each other again, everyone, take care.
Bye.
Bye.